a hunter who's lost a little of his height. Here's your look at the Mezco Predator 2 MDS Designers Series City Hunter Predator. Predator is in town with a few days to kill. Outfitted in his look from Predator 2, the Yaocha sports a removable bio helmet and is loaded with accessories from the film. Predator features a removable plasma caster that attaches to his shoulder, a hunting trophy, an interchangeable wrist blade hand, a combi stick, and smart disc. All accessories can be held in interchangeable hands for an abundance of display options. Just recently, I was over on Entertainment Earth's website with a few moments to kill, and I checked over on their Off the Truck, which is on the top corner of their website. It shows all the things that they just had delivered to their store. And sure enough, they had the MDS Predator 2, the City Hunter Predator from Mezco Toyz. It's kind of strange, really, that Mezco went right over releasing a Jungle Hunter and immediately went to City Hunter from the Predator sequel. Anyways, though, I did add this to my cart and delivered to my house right away. I'll provide the link down below to Entertainment Earth's website if you guys are interested to pick up one for yourself. Let's go ahead now and grab the ruler here. Zip up all the way up to the top of the head. Now, windshield wipering my way just out of the way for a second as I make a point. He is currently wearing his helmet. We're going to keep the reveal and the surprise a little bit later into this review, but for the time being, yeah, I'm going to keep the helmet in place. With the helmet intact, the City Hunter stands 7 inches in height, or the figure's about 17.5 centimeters tall. Checking out the figure's accessories, City Hunter does pretty good for himself, in fact. Now, like I said, he does have already the helmet on his face. I'm going to take that off in a moment, but in the meantime, let's look at the other things that come included with him. For starters, the figure comes included with a smart disc. It's nicely sculpted. Proportion-wise, nothing's changed necessarily to the smart disc. They haven't, oversized it or shrunk it down in a weird proportion. Unlike the Predator, the MDS figures are known for having larger heads, slightly smaller bodies, and usually in a pre-pose, at least the lower legs at least. But the smart disc hasn't had that happen. It's nicely detailed. You can see it's actually got a little brushing of a lighter coloring of brown just to the surface of the plastic. Love at some point to get myself a 1-to-1 scale of a Predator smart disc. I wonder what company makes it. Maybe I'll check over on Etsy. Now you can actually, picking this up right now, there doesn't seem to be a place, first of all, on the Predator. There would have been a smaller spot to hold the smart disc, but because, of course, the proportions are thrown out of whack here, it's not going to be the right size. And you can't put the smart disc right there where it normally would go. In the meantime, though, you can actually take the smart disc, and if you face it around the other way, it fits in between his fingers. Now, the problem with the fingers is generally these MDS figures usually have softer plastic that they use. And while you wouldn't be able to get your thumb on there unless you flip the disc around, I prefer to actually have the disc facing this way, but you could technically flip it around the other way if you want. You can kind of use at least 2, maybe even 3 of the fingers, enough to hold the smart disc in place. And it doesn't seem like it's going to fall off. I say that now. It's probably going to fall off right away. Maybe not? Okay, maybe not. The figure also comes included with a combi stick. Fully extended in this case. It's been sort of treated to a slight metallic copperish color. Really like the coloring that they decided to go with. Now again, in this case, you really would want to be using a hand. There isn't a clip anywhere on the back of his torso where you could attach the combi stick. They technically could have put a clip, say, right there and had the combi stick, instead of normally having it running vertical to the figure's body, if they sort of had it on an angle instead. The problem with, of course, the articulation of the head and the fact that the dreads are a harder plastic, that would break the combi stick and probably break a clip that would have been there anyways. So I can probably understand why they decided not to do that. Technically, there are also hands, which I guess we can stop for a second and have a look at. He does come with a pair of gripping hands. And he does also come with basically this hand here on this side here. Does that make sense? Here, over here. He comes with another hand. Again, all the fingers are fairly soft plastic, which is actually good because if you did want to change the hands and have it, first of all, displayed to hold the combi stick, this is probably not the best hand to do the job. Yeah, that one's better for holding the smart disc. Yeah, this one right here has a slightly more open grip. You take the combi stick and feed it down. Or you can really just pry the fingers away from the palm. And that's usually enough as well. Just get the combi stick all the way down. I don't know why I'm struggling so much doing this. I wasn't having any problems before. Sure enough, the camera's focused in on it, and now I'm going to be struggling. But again, like, you just take the fingers. There we go. There we go. Almost. Yeah, there we go. All right. Boy, that made things a lot worse, didn't it? Anyways, you can have him holding the combi stick. After all of that, that was just enough just to show you guys that he actually can hold the weapon. The other thing he can also hold as well, move those hands out of the way for the time being, he also comes included with a skull. Recently pulled, I would imagine, judging by the fact it's still got a pretty shiny finish of red. I don't know necessarily who this could be. Somebody from the drug cartel, perhaps. But yeah, he's just literally yanked this out. Very, very cool. For a second, I thought perhaps the lower jaw would be able to open and close, but that's not the case. There's no articulation. It's basically just a molded, severed head and spinal cord, which again, you can take the hands. I'm not going to spend as much time doing this, I hope. Just take the hands, get the fingers around. It really is just, it boils down to the fingers. There we go. And you can get the hand to hold. I probably will end up displaying, I think, the City Hunter Predator holding the skull and spinal cord. I just think that's so cool. The figure also comes in, actually, before we look at the blade attachment, the figure also, I'm going to remove the smart disc for the time being, put that to the side. The figure also comes included with a plasma caster shoulder-mounted cannon. It kind of looks more like, it bears more of a resemblance to sort of a cockroach in the Predator film. Sort of Predator 2 has more of an organic look to his armor than, I would say, Jungle Hunter. Now, this is a strange place to put this. Well, it's not. It's supposed to go really onto his shoulder. But when picking the figure out of this plastic prison first, I had a tough time really finding where to put the plasma caster. I would have actually expected it to be further over. It's a little harder, in fact, to see it. Can you even see? Right, there's a slot. Maybe that's helpful. Is that helpful? I hope that's helpful. There's a slot like right there, just on the top. You won't even know where I'm pointing until I go to decide to put this in. Now, this is not as soft of a plastic as, say, his hands, so you're just going to be a little bit more careful with this. But, like, if you can find where that slot's supposed to be, that's just going to sit inside. Looking at that right now, I'm sure many of you are still looking at that thinking, where was the slot? It's right there, right on the very edge. It was so hard to see. And of course, when it comes to rotating his head, you will want to probably remove the plasma caster first, just because you don't want to cry, because that would certainly be what would happen. The other thing that comes included with this figure as well is he comes with the blade gauntlet. Now, instead of actually having the blade gauntlet as being part already of the arm that comes included with the figure, they actually made it as two separate pieces. I guess if you wanted to display him without the gauntlet blades, I feel like that's always something that should go along with the Predator, but I guess if you want to, you could have that as a separate piece. To change this out, you're going to just, first of all, remove the hand, and then where this swivels right here on the elbow is the place where you're going to want to remove it. You really don't even have to force it necessarily. Instead, if you actually just pry it a bit, it's more than enough to remove the peg from the socket. Then, to take the other arm, and then just wiggle this back on. Of course, resisting the urge to put the pressure against the blades, because that would possibly even snap the blades. Pop that in place. And then go with a hand. Let's just stick with this hand for the time being. And there's what the Predator looks like with the gauntlet blade. You know, I guess it's not so bad, the fact that they did have this as a separate piece. If you didn't want to have the blades, just simply remove them. You can do that. Easy peasy. Let's go ahead and actually just remove the plasma caster. Its whereabouts will be known. I'm just putting it right over here to the side, because again, you don't want it to cry. You don't want to cry. You don't want to cry. Breaking that off. The other thing that the figure, of course, comes included with is the removable helmet. It was, though, granted, already removed inside the packaging. I've now since added it, and it's basically just friction forced against his head. It sort of has more of an oxidized, rusted look to his helmet, going along with the idea that he has more of an organic design to his armor. I like the helmet, but I find like something seems off around here. I don't know. It's just the fact maybe because he's got now that's a 10 head. It's not a 4 head, 5 head, or even further. It's like 10 heads. Like that's a big forehead. But again, you've got that oversized, stylized design of these MDS figures. Here's the little scope there, the laser scope off to the side of his one eye area there. But again, like I don't know, there's something that throws me off. Maybe it's just because it's the design of the City Hunter myself. But I just find like right here seems a little, I don't know. A little out of place. Now, what they probably have done here is use the darker plastic and then they brushed over top of it this copper color. That seems to make the same appearances all over his armor here, on his shoulders, his gauntlet blades, and even down his kneecaps, and like even a little bit lower down where he's got the net there as well. To remove the helmet, simply you just take it and just wiggle it off. You don't have to make that noise necessarily. Now, the way it attaches, see the little indentations on the inside of the helmet? They actually sit against the tusks of his front mandibles, and you just push it against it. It's more than enough, it seems, to keep the helmet in place, so it's not going to be falling off on you. I think in a case like this, I actually like to display, I think, the City Hunter more so with its helmet off. That looks super, super cool. One thing I do like about the City Hunter's design is that they did bring a lot more orange to the palette of his face. Look at it, just check out the orange color as well as the additional markings of the black that they've added here. Even like the front section of his crown has some additional deco that really wasn't on the Jungle Hunter. Or Jungle Hunter had it, but a little bit different than what we get here from City Hunter. His head sculpt, notably, is a lot heavier. It makes for a very heavy figure, and thank goodness he does have articulation in his ankles, because you can really compensate for the fact that his noggin is a lot of plastic and a lot of weight with that plastic. The mandibles are nicely sculpted and equally well painted. You can get that little bit of darker color that they've added to the corners of it. I like the peering eyes that he has here. Using both the yellow, a little bit of orange there. You got a little reflection of the white off to the corners. That's a good superior head sculpt. And of course, you got the dreads here on the back. No one is really individual from the other. They're all sort of molded together. And then just like the end trails, so to speak, of the dreads are basically the things that have a little bit of flexibility to them. But it's basically just like all one baseball size amount of plastic that they use for the head sculpt. And I gotta say, like, again, it works really, really well here for the City Hunter. The shoulder pads, as well as all the rest of his armor, again, you've got that darker black that they've used, and then brushed on top of it is that copper coloring. You got the nice netting there, making up the majority of his body, both his torso, his arms, and his lower legs. Just a little hint trace of that lighter brown added in there as well. It really makes for a very colorful and super detailed looking Predator. I'm just going to spin this around so you can see it from the looks on the back. Got little pockets and little medic kits and all that. Of course, a little section that would have housed the smart disc. You just can't do it on this figure because of this size. Just a really, really neat looking Predator. For the articulation on this guy, he is on a ball joint. At least his head is. You can have the head looking down, and you can bring the head up. And you can also move it back and forth as well. His arms do come out, and you can get them about, well, this arm is a little bit more limited just because he's got the larger, bulkier shoulder plate here. But the other arm that's a little less limited, you can probably pull it at about a little less than 90 degrees. You can take these arms and move them back and forth. And again, like the neat thing about these MDS figures is instead of actually having an elbow joint right here that allows the arm to bend or straight down and then bend straight up, what they do instead is they have a swiveling function. So what it does is if you want to have his arm straight, for example, you just continue to rotate his arm until finally you get the straight arm that you want, and then just rotate the hand instead. Now, to be fair, though, I find like if you straighten out the arms here of Predator, his arms do look a little gorilla-sized. I mean, they're a little bit too big, I think, proportionally for the rest of his body, so I would probably always just rotate the arm, rotate the hand, and always have his arm, I think, in a bent position instead. Same thing also for this one, even though we've already changed the gauntlet on this one, it works the exact same way. Promise. I won't lead you guys on. The waist is on a swivel. There is no leg articulation. This is basically the part that is the limited part on MDS figures. Usually lower legs are always staction, so you can't do anything with it. I'm gonna cry. And he finally does have a ball joint in his ankles, so you can move him back and forth this way, you can move him up and down this way, and they've even gone the mile of actually sculpting the undersoles of Predator's feet. And apparently he also got himself a tattoo that said trademark 20th Century Fox, Mezco, China. All in all, a really good looking Predator figure. Don't let it be the fact that the proportions be the thing that turns you away from wanting to get this figure. The one thing that works to the credit of MDS is the proportions. I like personally the idea of having oversized heads because, especially with a character like Predator, all the attention you're going to be looking at is going to be in the face. So why not make that be the largest part on the figure's body, the entire figure? He does have articulation. He's granted a little more articulated, limited on the articulation in the lower half of him at least, but he does have all the other articulation where it would need it. and he has a whole ton of accessories. I'm not sure I'm going to use every one of them. The plasma caster I will certainly put in place, but just be cautious when putting the plasma caster on his shoulder that you don't inadvertently rotate his head and snap the stem of the plasma caster, and then you're going to cry. Even though I think I still would have preferred Jungle Hunter being the first release from Mezco for their MDS Designer Series line, I gotta say I'm still impressed with what they did here with City Hunter. The colors certainly pop on him, and maybe that's the reasoning why they decided to go with City Hunter over the original Predator Jungle Hunter design, just because City Hunter is known for a lot more colorful colors being used for his body. Now, when it comes to certainly displaying the figure, you can either opt to have him with the helmet on front of his face that is just frictioned in place. There's like little notations, little notches on the inside of his helmet. That's the thing that sort of rests against the mandibles of his face. But to be honest, usually I'm always displaying my Predator figures with the helmet on. I think this might be a case where I would rather decide to display him with the helmet off. The head sculpt is too good to leave hidden underneath his helmet. And of course, this guy does have a lot of accessories going for him. I've left the plasma caster off for the time being. I might probably go back at least. And I think I might even just display him, I don't know, maybe with the combi stick. Certainly the other hand, literally on the other hand, has already been committed to the idea of him holding the bloody skull with spinal cord. Again, too good of an accessory, I think, to leave off displaying this figure on your shelf. But what do you guys think, though, of the new MDS Predator 2 City Hunter Predator from the folks over at Mezco Toyz? Pretty fun-looking figure, isn't it? And again, if you guys are interested to pick this one up for yourself, it should be available right now in specialty stores and comic book stores. I just happened to find this over at Entertainment Earth's website. The thing I like about Entertainment Earth is, first of all, they're fast when it comes to shipping. And that's not just a sell either. I honestly, from me, all the times that I've purchased things on Entertainment Earth, as soon as I order it, it seems to come within a week. Like, I just placed this order literally last week, and it was like Monday or so. And now I'm filming this review the following weekend. So it was like a week later that this guy already showed up. Shipping is super fast on this guy. And again, if you guys are interested, I'll provide the link down below in the video description. Hey, while you're down there also as well, around this channel with a few days, hopefully not to kill, but if to check out more videos and you haven't already done so, a shameless plug to this channel. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below. It helps you. It helps us. It helps this channel to grow. As well, while you're certainly also there with a few moments to kill, make sure you turn on the bell notification so you're going to get reminders every single time a new video pops up. While we have wrapped up the review right now of the MDS City Hunter Predator, there may be other MDS reviews coming your way in the not-so-distant future. I just hope it's nowhere near drug lords. I hope. The Predator's going to take care of himself, but I don't have smart discs. Certainly not a one-to-one smart disc. I would like to get my hands on that at some point. Lots of stuff coming your way, guys. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.